Welcome to another episode on the channel. In today's video, I actually won an auction car. So let's take a look at this thing to see what happens when trash people own relatively new cars. Now for the past probably 6 months, I've been bidding on 1, 2, sometimes 3 cars a week at the auctions. And this is IAAI, Insurance Auto Auctions. I don't have a dealer's license, so I can't bid on retail auctions, but I now have a broker, so I can bid on clean title cars. So otherwise, you're stuck with just public salvage auctions. And I don't know what it is with the public auctions, but people just run up the bids to stupid amounts. So what we have here is a 2021 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. It has 44,000 miles on it. It has a clean title. It was a repossession, and it was listed as a non-runs and drives. So it has the key, but it does not run. And I think the reason for that is that the battery was deader than dead. So I pulled the Carfax on this, and it appears that in October of 23, which is about 8 months from this video, it was taken into a Honda dealer where it was sold used for an oil change. So they did that at 44,443 miles. And then the car sat there. And it now has 44,443 miles on it. So apparently it went in for an oil change and it was just left there and abandoned. So it sat for 8 months, ended up at the auction, and was sold as a repossession. And now I have it. So if we take a look around the outside of it, like, it isn't too beat up. It's dirty, but it's not bad. The front end looks fine. A little bit of scratches on the wheels. And I saw this in the picture. So we've got a dent, a little bit of a crease down here. Somebody kind of scuffed something, and then we've got a decent dent right here. They're not terribly sharp dents, and the paint isn't cracked, so I'm going to take it over to my PDR guy, and hopefully he can pop those out so we don't have to do any paint work on it. That would be ideal. But if we continue around it, the back bumper isn't bad, just a few scuffs and a couple chips. Can touch that up if we need to. There's really no door dings in it that I can see. The roof is fine. No hail dents or anything like that. So, I mean, the exterior isn't bad. The interior is the big problem. So let's take a look at that. All right, now here's the problem. So I knew from the pictures that it was an ashtray, and it's pretty gross, just from a smoking standpoint. But what I did not notice in the pictures is somebody had taken the floor mats and put them on top of all of the garbage that was on the floorboards. So all of this stuff was covered up with the floor mats, and that the hatch won't open because the battery's completely dead, but the back's full of junk too. So the bunch of empty fast food containers in the car, and that in itself isn't terrible. The car didn't smell like rotten food. The problem was when I opened the glove box and pulled out some of the papers, I saw some little cockroaches start running. And at that time I had the car in the garage, and I just said, oh, screw this, and I shoved it outside, where I guess I'll clean it up out here. So now, anticipating the smoke smell, I purchased an ozone machine, and I put that in the car last night because I had read that you can kill bugs with that. So I just stuck it in the car with everything in it and tried to fumigate the car that way. But I guess let's get started cleaning this trash heap out. Yeah, this thing is pretty gross. I've got all the big stuff out of it. Next step, we'll vacuum it. Man, some people are absolute garbage, and someone's going to be pissed their wigs are in the garbage. But yeah, there's a lot of mold and stuff to scrub out of this car. So it should come out. I've had to deal with mold before. It's just on the surface, so we'll scrub it off, disinfect everything, and it should be fine, but it's just going to be a lot of work. All right, with the seats out of it, we can see what kind of a mess we've got. Yeah, mold in a lot of places. Luckily, I pulled the trim out, and like the underside of the carpet and the padding and stuff, that's all fine. It's just on the surface, so I can spray it down, scrub it. That should be fine. I did see a few cockroaches, little ones running around, so I'm gonna have to get some traps just to make sure we got everything. Like, I can understand if you're having a rough month or a couple months, can't get the car washed, can't wash it yourself, but Jesus Christ, just throwing your food garbage in the back seat and the floor and your cigarettes, on the floor. Come on, don't be trash. Just a quick vacuum can do wonders, even though we still got the surface mold. Carpet is much cleaner. Console's still garbage. Still a bunch of ashes on the steering column. The back seat doesn't look too bad. The front seats don't look too bad. Definitely got to get the carpet cleaner on them. So in general, interior parts aren't really prone to mold, but when you see how they're all plastic or plastic based, petroleum based, but once you start putting organic matter on them, like touching them and leaving greasy fingerprints, leaving food, then all bets are off. You can end up with a lot of mold. Now, I've got this mold cleaner, mold control. I've used this on a number of cars and it works pretty well. So step one, we ran the ozone generator to kill the bugs. Step two, we cleaned out everything. Step three, we vacuumed. Step four, we're gonna spray everything in the car with this mold killer. We'll let that dry. Then step four, we'll start scrubbing everything. Scrub it down with Dawn, try to clean it, then hit it with a disinfectant. And carpets and fabrics, we'll have to take the carpet cleaner to those. And hopefully it'll brighten it up pretty good. And then after that, we'll run the ozone generator in it again, and hopefully that'll kill the rest of the smell. Here we are about 2 hours in. I've got the front seats and the bottom of the back seat done. So that was a good place to stop and change out the water. And I think the seats came out pretty nice. They're already dry. I've had a fan on them. So the only thing with the front seat, we've got a couple burn holes in the bottom. So I'll get on eBay and see if I can find a seat bottom for the passenger seat. Driver seat's in pretty decent shape. And the bottom of the back seat actually cleaned up really well as well. So I should be okay with that one. And they smell good too. So this is what we've got out of the front seats and the bottom of the back seat. It's pretty gross, and I'm sure we'll have the same or worse in the seat back and the carpet when I do that next. And here we are on day two. Day one was pretty successful, about 4 hours, and I was able to clean all of the seats, the headliner, and all of the pillar trim, and all of the door panels. And that stuff looks pretty good. The door panels, I'll come through, any of the hard plastic, I'll come through with 303, just to kind of make them look a little less dull. The carpet looks okay, the underside of the carpet anyway. So I also had to scrub the floor, like all of the steel floor down, because there was a bunch of garbage under it. Everything's been scrubbed, sprayed down with mold killer and eliminator, and sprayed with disinfectant. So it's all dried out now, so I should be able to put the carpet back. I scrubbed out the cargo area so I can put all of that stuff back in it. So it still smells like wet cigarettes and shame, but with the carpet cleaned and the console and the dash, it'll hopefully smell pretty neutral. About an hour and a half in, and I got the carpet cleaned. So it was pretty gross, a lot of brown water coming out of it, but it looks pretty decent now. I'll let it dry, but at least it's black. So now the good thing with this being really cheap carpet is that it's a really short pile and it's plastic backed. So nothing was able to soak through the carpet down into the carpet pad. So the only places that the carpet pad got wet were where there's an opening for a seat or a cutout or something. But otherwise it was all trapped in the carpet and it came out relatively easily. So now the console and the dash are the next thing. Now I opened the center console and it's full of shake and it reeks of marijuana. So I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble most of the console so that I can clean it a little better. I've already got the back of the console off. It's just four 10mm bolts, and then you pop off the cover in the back and it comes right off. So then the next thing, we just unscrew the shifter knob, and then I'll have to get a trim remover tool and I can probably pop off some of that trim. Well, that was really easy. Everything just clips together. And we can see how gross everything is. This will make the job much easier, and we'll be able to do a much better job too, because now I can get around all of this stuff and the handbrake, and I can get down into all of those cracks and crevices. And here are all of the loose trim parts that I need to clean before they go back in the car, as well as what's left of the center console and the instrument panel. And then the interior should be pretty well done. Well, everything is scrubbed and as clean as I can get it. But all of the parts look fairly dull, which is normal after scrubbing it down with Dawn dish soap. But as I put the parts in, I'll put a coat of 303 on them. It'll make them look pretty nice satin finish. Now, I will probably have to get another one of these console bezels. It's pretty stained and there's a burn mark in it. But let's go ahead and get this thing back together and see how it looks. And here it is after it's first scrubbed down. I think it came out pretty good considering how bad it looked before. The smell's pretty neutral at the moment, but we'll see if I leave it outside closed up for a couple hours. But yeah, not too bad. We seem to have got everything out of the carpet. Looks pretty good in the front and in the back. The seats look pretty decent. Door panels came out pretty nice, except for the driver door. Back looks good. Yeah, so considering how bad it was, I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, the front door, I'm probably going to replace this door panel. I've got 2 decent burn holes in it, and they're pretty cheap. So I've got enough room on the car. Considering what I paid for it, I've got enough room. I can find a used door for a couple $100. And the passenger seat I'm going to replace because it has 3 large burn holes in it, and I can buy a whole seat used from LKQ for $215. And like just the seat bottom, that's all I need is the seat bottom. And that's $265 used on eBay or $900 from the dealer. So I think I'll pick that up on from LKQ. The dash came out pretty clean. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. We'll see how the smell goes. Now that I'm done with the interior, I guess we can talk about the supplies that I used. I wasn't sure what all I would need, so now's a good time to talk about it. So once it was vacuumed, then I hit it with the carpet cleaner with a hand wand. So we've got deep cleaning solution and Dawn dish soap. And then we've also got this mold control spray, so it kills and prevents mold. I've got the disinfectant here, so I sprayed down everything with that, so hopefully the mold won't come back. Generic glass cleaner, and then to clean everything, well, once everything's clean, then the 303 on top of all the plastic parts. Now let's work on sprucing up this interior, getting rid of all of the smoke-burned parts. Now, if you recall, this trim piece has burn holes and it's all stained. So from eBay for a little over $100, I've got a new one that is in almost new condition. And this is easy to swap. All right, that's all there is to it for that trim piece. Now let's move on to the driver door panel. All right, I got the replacement door panel out of the box, and if we just take a look at it, it's in nice shape. Just a couple scuffs on it, not a problem. We'll have to transfer over the switch cluster, which should just unclip, but everything looks good, no burn marks on anything here. Now, since I haven't taken a door panel off of one of these before, we're just gonna look at this one to see how it comes off. So you've got a screw point in the door opener, and then there's also one in the pull cup. And I think those are the only 2 screws. Everything else is clipped. We'll need to transfer over a couple clips that are missing here. That's not a problem. And you can see these are really cheap door panels. So this is everything here is just cheap injection molded plastic. The mat pocket, that's just like a clipped on injection molded part with 2 welds there. Same with all this stuff up here, it's all welded. This very minimal noise pad is just welded on. Same with the armrest, it's all welded on. And you got a little crash pad here for side impact. And that's about it. The only thing that's screwed on, there's a screw up here for the belt line. That's about it. We'll just use our pick to pop out the screw cover. And unscrew there. And likewise, we'll just use the pick to remove the cover in here. Let's swap over our clips and switch cluster, and then we'll install the new one. Alright, now that's done. So we got a nice looking replacement door for $175. So now the next thing is replacing the passenger seat that has a bunch of burn holes in it. Here's the replacement seat for $203. I have a complete seat in good condition. I washed it real quick. It was dirty, but there's no real damage on it. That came from LKQ, not the pull apart, the actual LKQ. And then once we move inside, I've already had these out once to clean the carpet. So it's 3 connectors under the seat, which are already unclipped. A couple of trim pieces come off, and then 4 14-millimeter bolts. Make sure you disconnect the battery, seems like you got an airbag in there. Under 5 minutes, the seat is swapped and we're good to go. Looks good in the car, and the interior is now done. I guess now we can take a look at it from the mechanical side. We'll get it up on the lift and take a look underneath it. So the biggest issue with the car is that it does not start. So if we get inside, all right, it's in park. Turn the key, nothing happens. All the electrical stuff works, it lights up, but nothing happens. My thought and hope was that because the battery was so dead when I got it that maybe that was throwing it off, but I've charged the battery, it's fully charged. I checked all the fuses, see if there was maybe a blown fuse to something that went to the starter or an ignition system, and no issues there. I plugged my OBD reader into it and tried to pull some codes to see what was going on, and it's throwing a ton of codes for like an ECU timeout. So I called the Mitsubishi dealer and gave them the VIN number, and it is still under the 5-year, 60,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty. So they said, just send it over, we'll take a look at it. So I'll have their roadside assistants come and pick it up and take it off to the dealer. And hopefully that will take care of the issue at no charge. So I guess what we'll do now, I'll get it up on the lift and pull the wheels off of it because the tires are shot. And I went online and found a place called Champ Tire. So they sell new takeoffs and used tires. So I found a set of Firestone Destination LE3s, new from Tire Rack. It's $788 for 4 tires plus tax, and mounting and balancing is probably, you got another like $150 on top of that. And I found a set of new takeoff of the same tires for $250 shipped to the door. And I've got a friend of mine that has a tire changer and balancer, so for much, much less than a new set of tires, I can put almost new tires on this. Well, as expected from a 44,000 mile car, there's nothing to be seen under here. So all of the brakes, front and back, have a ton of pad left on them. All of the bushings look fine. I didn't check for any play or anything like in wheel bearings or control arm bushings or anything, but visually everything looks fine, so I wouldn't suspect anything there. Same in the back. Good brake pads. All the rubber parts look fine. The engine, there are no leaks anywhere from like half shaft seals, coolant, oil, Nothing, everything's very clean under here. Clean, dry. So the only thing that I've noticed, we got an O2 sensor where the wire runs over the exhaust. So it's supposed to be held up by that little plastic clip, and it's laying on the exhaust, and it melted the coating and melted through the wire. So that's probably going to throw a check engine light. But let's get the tires swapped and send it to the dealer, and we'll pick it up when it's back from the dealer. All right, here's the final attempt to try to get this smoke, weed, garbage smell out of the car. I've done this twice already. This time a little more extreme. I pulled the carpet up and I've got it blocked up so the ozone generator can get ozone everywhere. I've got the back seat up, got the console open, glove box is open, and the passenger seat, I replaced it because the original one had burn holes in it, so it smells fine. I've got the driver's seat in the back. I'm going to turn the fan on low and leave it sit out here with the battery tender on it so the battery doesn't go dead. And I guess just leave it run out here in the sun for 2-3 hours. Hopefully that'll kill it. Well, the ozone generator ran for about 3 hours out in the sun. And you can see I've kind of cleaned up what's going on here, and it really did not make a difference. So I don't know what has possessed this car, but I'm about a step away from having to call in a priest. So I'm gonna throw everything at it that I can, but before I do that, I gotta narrow down where the smell is coming from. So using my nose, smelling everything, the driver's side carpet, the carpet pad underneath smells fine. So everything over here is pretty good. The back seat smells fine. The console smells fine. The dash is fine. The headliner's fine. Door panels are fine. So I did notice these carpet pads, which have some goo in them, those still smell a bit funky. So we're gonna tackle those in a minute. The back smells fine. Everything back here. The front of the passenger side is fine, but back here, there was some sort of goo that ran all down through here and puddled back in this area. And the carpet pad smells fine. And luckily, the carpet is plastic backed. So I think the smell that's back here, it's not overwhelming, but it doesn't smell great. It's kind of concentrated right in this pan. So I'm gonna have to hit that, and maybe that'll take care of it. But on top of that, the back seat and the front seat have a bit of a smell still. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Previously, I had used this mold control spray and this odor eliminator, but I think the problem is I'm not able to soak the carpet pads and the seat foam deep enough to get the smell out. So what I'm gonna do with the carpet padding, that's small enough. I'm gonna put about 1/4 of the utility sink with water, and then we're gonna put in a scoop of OxyClean with odor blasters, some laundry sanitizer, and some Max Odor Defense stuff. And here's what one side looks like after a quick rinse. Water's pretty brown and there's a pretty strong odor coming out of it. So I think we'll do this a couple times and then just hang it outside to dry. Now the back seat's gonna be a little trickier. So I wanna focus on this area and this area. And I don't want it to come through to the top surface, so I'll lay it like this and try to pour it on the side so it can soak down through it. And then I've got the garden hose, I can hose it down afterwards. After several rinses, the stains are still there, but I don't really smell the smell at the moment. So I guess we'll just leave it sit here in the sun to dry out, and we'll check it and see if it smells. And we'll just repeat the same procedure on the driver's seat. So using my nose, I smelled all over the seat. The seat back smells okay. The seat bottom is really, really bad. I had it sitting out in the sun for like an hour or so, and it's really hot and humid outside, and man, this thing smells bad. The whole seat bottom, I thought it was just the front, but the whole thing smells bad. So there's been some wop in the seat that has turned. So I took a look at the passenger seat, which is going to be scrapped, to see how the seat bottom comes off, because it'll be a lot easier to clean it with
the seat bottom off. And it's pretty easy. We just have to take the side trim piece off, and then it just unclips, and the whole foam and cushion, the whole cushion with the cover comes off in one piece. Now that this has been soaked in the solution a few times and wrung out like a sponge, it smells pretty decent. So I'm gonna set it outside in the sun, let it dry, and then we'll take another smell test of it.
And hopefully the last piece of the puzzle here, the carpet. I've got my mixture of hot water. I've got the carpet cleaner to suck up the water. So I'll just dump this sparingly in the footwell area, and then use my brush to agitate it and just suck up the water with the carpet cleaner, and hopefully it'll take care of the smell over here. All right, so now we've fast forwarded a couple days, everything has dried out, and the sniff test is positive in a good way. So there is no bad smell coming from any of these pieces anymore. So the floor foam, the driver's seat bottom cushion, and the rear seat cushion, and also smell test on the carpet, no smell out of that. So I think we got most of that stuff. Now, one thing that was very interesting, I've cleaned many really gross cars, and I have never run into a situation like I had on the front seat. So with the seat bottom off of it, I was walking past the seat sitting on the floor, and I still smelled the nasty smell that was in the car. So I started sniffing around the rest of the driver's seat, and whatever was on the seat bottom cushion permeated the metal frame of the bottom of the seat. So I started sniffing around, and like everything down here reeked. If you're familiar with used gear oil, that's what everything in here smelled like. So I had to take brake cleaner and spray down all of the metal parts of the seat bottom. And now it smells pretty decent. You can still smell a little bit of it, but I think it got into the grease itself. So I can't get all of the grease out of the track. But I think it smells good enough that it should be kind of masked by the rest of the car. So I guess we'll go ahead and reassemble everything. All right, well, here's our finished product. Let's take a look at the inside, then we'll take a look at the outside. Everything cleaned up pretty nice. I have a couple, those are just a couple wet spots I had to wipe a little dirt off. That'll dry and even out. So I think it came out pretty nice. Door panels look good. Back seat and carpet looks good. Trunk area came out pretty nice. Same with this side. I do have an ant trap in there because I'm still finding a few ants here or there from the food that was left in the car. And this side as well. Looks pretty good. So let's take a look at the outside. So if you recall, before it went to the dealer and to the PDR guy, we had a dent right here in the quarter and a dent / crease down here. So the PDR guy I have is really good. I just dropped it off to him and said, just do a wholesale repair on it. And he did. And for 450 bucks, 99% of the dents are out of it. But otherwise, the rest of the car looks pretty good. The only thing I've done is wash it. I haven't greased it up like a dealer. I haven't put any 303 on the black trim or the tires yet. So it's silver. You really can't. I mean, you could spend 20 hours detailing a silver car and it still looks the same as this, which has been run through automatic car washes its entire life. So let's talk about the mechanicals. What made this thing a non-runs and drives? So if you remember, you hit the key, nothing would happen even though it had a full charge on the battery. So since how it's still under bumper-to-bumper warranty, I sent it over to the Mitsubishi dealer, and within a couple hours they called and said it has a blown fuse for the engine controller, and they traced it down, and it actually was the O2 sensor, which I pointed out before it went to the dealer. The I only noticed one wire with the insulation burned through, but there were two wires that the insulation was burned through, and it shorted out on the exhaust and it popped a fuse. So that was something I could have done myself, but with it being under warranty still, and I had a bunch of other stuff going on, so it was just easier to dump it at the dealer, let them take care of it. So a new O2 sensor and a new fuse, and it's good to go. So I guess now we could take it for a quick drive so you can experience the exhilaration of the Outlander Sport. All right, here we go. This is just the 2-liter. So even though it's pretty low on power, it still moves pretty decent. The CVT is not very exciting, but again, it moves it down the road pretty well. For being a tallish, small SUV, it handles pretty well. It's got 18-inch tires, so the sidewalls are pretty short, so it's not so roly-poly like the Honda Fit that we have. The brakes are good, has a good pedal feel, stops pretty strong. The power steering, it's a little bit like a rubber band. There's really no feel to it. You just kind of hope for the best. Turn the wheel, hope for the best. But I mean, by Japanese car standards, it's pretty quiet. It actually has a fair amount of insulation in the floor. It's not super loud, and the tires being fairly new, not an aggressive tread, they're pretty quiet as well. So overall, this is a perfectly acceptable daily driver. I mean, good fuel mileage, it's pretty comfortable, it's relatively large inside. Now compared to our Honda Fit, which I bought this to replace, nothing can compare to the space efficiency of the Honda Fit. You can fit 4 sturdy Midwesterners in it with plenty of room, or you can fold the back seats and put a ton of crap in it. This doesn't compare on that front, but it's still decently sized. Does 30-ish miles per gallon in the driving that I've done with it. So it's a perfectly acceptable vehicle. I mean, there's nothing you can really say it's awful at. I mean, Mitsubishi takes a lot of crap for not having very good cars right now. It's not the days of the 3000 GT or anything, but I mean, for a basic around town car, this is perfectly acceptable. And from a value standpoint, this is a pretty decently optioned car. This is one step up from a base model, but it has forward collision warning, lane departure warning, automatic high beams, full LED headlights, automatic climate control, automatic wipers. So decent sounding stereo. It's only 4 speakers, but it sounds okay. The only thing that would be nice to have, and you don't get that until you move up to the next package, is Apple CarPlay. So it's a nice touchscreen radio, but no CarPlay. So now what to do with this car? I bought it to replace the Honda Fit, seeing how this is a year newer than the Honda, has half the miles, and is still under bumper-to-bumper warranty for another 1.5 years. But I threw the VIN number into Carvana and CarMax, and if I sell it, I can get a pretty good return on it. So it's either sell this and make a decent amount of money, or sell the Honda, which I've had for 8 months now, and put 10,000 miles on it and lose like $500. So from a money standpoint, it would probably be smarter to get rid of this and just keep the Honda, because the Honda's value has pretty much flatlined. It hasn't dropped any since I bought it, and I keep putting miles on it, and it's been as reliable as you expect a Honda to be. And I will say, for being a former rental car and for being owned by complete garbage people, this car's held up pretty well. There are no squeaks, no creaks, no rattles, no suspension noises. So even having almost 45,000 miles on it, I would expect under that kind of torture that it would suffer somewhat, but I mean, it seems perfectly fine the way it is. And along those lines, if you're a complete garbage person like the previous owner of this car, please don't drive a relatively new, relatively nice vehicle like this. You deserve something like a 2000 Chevy Cavalier with 200,000 miles that lived its whole life in Cleveland and is held together with hopes and prayers. That's what you deserve to drive. It's amazing to me how somebody could trash this car as bad as they did in 64 days and putting 9,400 miles on it. It's amazing. I've owned a lot of cars that I've bought from auctions that were trashed, like smoke or smell, just garbage, but nothing that has had smoke, weed smell, whatever goo was in the back, food garbage, just everything under the sun, all in one car. So I don't know. I don't know if I should be impressed or depressed that somebody's that big of a trash person, but I can only imagine what that house smells like. So thanks for watching this video. I know it's been a little long-winded, but the interior took a lot longer than I anticipated it would. So thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.